Having been a top-flight UK tuning company since 1984, Torque Developments International continues to provide successful engineering solutions to motorsport and professional car enthusiasts. My name's Sam Borgman, I'm the Technical Director here, and I have over 10,000 hours of real-world experience here in the Dyno cell. I'm going to give you a glimpse at how we work here on a day-to-day basis in the world of professional tuning. Hi, and welcome back to the Dyno cell here at Torque Developments. In our last video, we spoke a lot about our Dyno cell's construction, the equipment that we have in here and why we have it here in the cell. Today, as promised, we've hooked a car into the dyno and we're going to take a look at how we use the dyno to tune this car. But before that, I just want to talk you through the car that we've chosen to have in here today. This is a Focus RS MK2. This particular Focus RS has been converted to be an endurance race car. An endurance race car differs from a normal full performance race car in that an ultimate lap time isn't the goal. The goal is to go very quickly around a racetrack, no doubt about that. But to continue to do it, not for 1 hour, for 2 hours, but for 6 or 12 or 24. This car's built to do 24 hours. So it's designed to be easy to drive, it's designed to be comfortable for not one, but as many as 4 or 5 drivers over the 24-hour period. And it has to be reliable, and as well as being reliable, it has to be easy to repair. It's really, really common for endurance race cars to get damaged over the course of a 24-hour race event, and everything about this car is designed to not only make it robust, comfortable and easy to use, but also make it easy to repair as well along the way. So let's go to the engine bay. Last video we spoke about simple engine management systems and how mapping was essentially just changing ignition advance and air-fuel ratio by changing the amount of fuel being delivered to an engine. We also spoke about more complex engine management systems that can not only control ignition advance and fuel, but also can control variables like intake cams and exhaust cams position relative to the crankshaft, and drive-by-wire throttles and complex electronically controlled turbos. Well, this Mark II Focus has all of the above. This is one of the most complex engine management systems you'll find in any race car, really, outside of the top flight of Le Mans cars and the Formula One. This is the kind of engine management system that tuners work up throughout their career to learning to really master. You wouldn't learn to tune on an engine management system like this, but this is the kind of engine management system you would build up to tuning. I just want to show you the cockpit of the race car. That's where most of the changes have been made. Here in the cockpit, you'll notice we've made lots and lots of changes to make the car more suitable for endurance racing. First of which is this safety cage. It's a very, very strong series of metal bars that are designed to give the driver survival space in the event of a big side impact or a front impact or a tumbling, rolling impact. Down here we have a special pedal box for the driver to use, all mounted with the steering wheel much further back in the car. Get the driver very, very close to the moment of inertia in the car, the centre of gravity perhaps. Here we can see an air jack. In the pit stops, the system is charged with compressed air, the car leaps off the deck. Immediately we're able to start removing wheels and changing tyres. You can see here that we have a driver display. On the steering wheel there's a pair of buttons that allow the driver to cycle through various different display setups, seeing different data. In an endurance race we have multiple drivers, and different drivers like to see different data on the dash. Here we have a shift light, which we can program to show the drivers when they need to be pulling the next gear, or we can flash these if there's some kind of problem with the engine. Draw the driver's attention to it. Over here you'll see a large array of switches that are really clunky, big clicking switches. Not laid out because they're the finest switches we could find. They're laid out like that so that they're easy to switch and know that you've switched them while wearing fireproof gloves at 2 o'clock in the morning, maybe on the driver's second 4-hour stint. In the other side of the car you'll see that we have all of the mapping equipment already in. What we're going to do is test the car, get some baseline data, and then make some changes, and then go have a look at that data that comes back from the changes and make sure that the changes have had the desired effect. So we've performed our first test to gather some baseline data for this car. That test was performed with a boost level, an intake manifold pressure level of 1,750 millibars. That is to say, 750 millibars above the prevailing atmospheric pressure. The test itself is what we call a constant acceleration test. The dyno has been asked to hold the engine speed at 2000 RPM as an initial condition for the test. The initial condition, I'm 100% throttle, the engine's 100% maximum effort at 2000 RPM, and at this point it's making around about 220 foot-pounds of torque. As we can see, I've started the test and we've begun to increase in engine speed. Now I've mandated an engine speed rate of gain of 300 RPM per second. Early in the test, the engine torque goes from 220 foot-pounds of torque at the wheels to approximately 270 foot-pounds of torque at the wheels in only 400 RPM. Now this very large change in the engine output is due to the engine speed gain and all of a sudden the turbocharger having enough exhaust gas energy to meet my demand for boost of 1,750 millibars absolute in the intake manifold. We can see that the torque is then extremely flat, right the way across to 5,000 RPM. And then from 5,000 RPM all the way through to the rev limiter at 7,000, we can see a fairly flat drop-off rate of the engine's torque and the corresponding power line here. So what I want to do for the second test is change just one variable, and that variable, we're going to make it the boost. We're going to change it from 1,750 millibars absolute to 1,900 millibars absolute. We're going to go up 150 millibars, and we're going to see the change that that makes to everything. So here we have our second set of results directly from our second test. This magenta line, you can see, snaps up to a much higher torque level of around 310 foot-pounds at the wheels. We see a more pronounced slope downwards as we approach 5,000 RPM, and then approximately the same drop-off rate here to the red line at 7,000. But for the 150 millibars of extra air density and air pressure in the intake manifold, we've seen a really good return in the engine's amount of output. Here at 3,000 RPM, we've gone from 270 foot-pounds of torque at the wheels to 310 foot-pounds of torque at the wheels for 150 millibars. This tells us quite a lot about the way the car's working. This is saying to us that at this flow rate, our turbo is giving us cheap boost. We can ask for a bit of extra pressure in our intake manifold, and the amount that we're paying for that boost in terms of back pressure created by the turbo in the exhaust manifold is relatively low. So we're seeing a really big improvement for a very small amount of boost. Overall, in normal tuning, we would see this kind of emphatic response from the engine as a green light to go and try another higher boost level again. Thank you for watching our video. Here we've concentrated on changing one variable in the engine's operation, being intake manifold pressure or boost. As I mentioned earlier, the engine bay on this Focus RS has many variable systems. We have a variable intake cam, exhaust cam, drive-by-wire and boost, as well as of course ignition advance and air-fuel ratio. In the tuning process, we would use the exact method that we've demonstrated here of changing a variable and then repeating a test to see the effect that changing that variable has had on the engine's operation. We would use that same method when we came to adjusting the intake cam positions, the exhaust cam positions, the relative positions of the two cams, the boost level, as we've demonstrated here, and the air-fuel ratio and ignition advance. In future videos, we're going to look at this whole subject in much more detail. So please be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future videos, and if you want more details about torque developments or our training courses, just check in the description below. Really, it's tuning, it's ECU tuning. We're tuning the engine management system or engine control unit on whatever this car or motorbike. So welcome to our dyno cell. We're going to have a look around the whole room, but the first thing I want to show you is the dyno itself.